She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lauren Brunswick. If this is the first time you are listening because your boss told you you needed to listen or this was shared with you, then welcome. I love that you're here. We're going to be launching a two-part series that is focused around helping empower the CA. Now, if you're not a chiropractor, CA stands for Chiropractic Assistant. There is lots of different things. It's more than a receptionist, like a gazillion times more. They a lot of times are running the office so the doctor can doctor. And a lot of doctors, what we find, don't they kind of just get in the way of the CA. Like they hire amazing people and then they like tend to micromanage or don't delegate enough. And so like this series, we have two different people who are going to be presenting on it. So this isn't like a part one of the same person. Next week will be a different person talking about how to empower CAs. And no matter what your profession is, I think that there are going to be really good lessons in here of learning how to delegate, how to hire appropriately, how to inspire. So today I have Miranda on, and she's actually a CA coach. Full disclosure, I really liked Miranda. This was the first time I had met her, and we are actually in talks of hiring her on for a coach for our clinic. And this is unpaid. I'm not getting paid to say this or anything like that, but it felt like the right move for our clinic right now because we've been a part of a lot of different coaching groups over the years. And when we were doing our best, our CAs were getting inspiration and accountability and feeling a part of the tribe of chiropractic outside of just me. And so right now, I know like there's just not a ton of programs. There's really not a ton of programs that I want to join necessarily at this point that match what I need and match what our CAs need. So I have a business coach myself who's wonderful and doing one-on-one work. And it's great because he helps with all of the businesses. Is more of a business coach, but like that's for me and my personal growth. And I really wanted my team to have someone also so. Yeah, like I said, just full disclosure, I'm probably going to start working with Miranda. Let's see, what other updates in life? So I'm trying to stay calm because about 10 minutes before I got on to record this intro, I was told by the nearest Costco that they have 5 of these giant skeletons that I have been low-key stalking for 6 weeks. I've called Costco probably no less than 20 times to say if they have them in stock yet. But they can't put it on reserve. So I'm just like, chill. I'm just doing an intro while I'm patiently waiting to get a text from Kirby, whether or not he got there in time, because it's 45 minutes away from us, to buy one. So I'm chill. You're not freaking out. I'm not freaking out. You're freaking out. Other update. So we are going to have a webinar coming up. I don't have the exact details for you. Okay. Like probably going to be Wednesday, the 28th at 7 p.m. Central Time. That may fluctuate, but like if you're listening before the 28th, Elise Rigney and Steph Wigner and I are going to be doing a free webinar on giving insider tips that financially savvy chiropractors know. So that's going to be just jam packed with some awesome free value and tidbits. Make sure I don't have a link for you yet. Sorry. So just like pay attention to my social and I'm sure you'll see it. I don't think I have any other updates. We're good. I think we're ready to like go into the episode. So as a CA, Miranda has collected over 58,000 in one day and 348,000 in 1 month by bonding and being direct with patients. She recently started a CA training program to help other CAs be confident in leading patients into starting and maintaining treatment bring creative and fun. While bringing creativity and fun, I think. To quote, create is my life word. It's what I live for every day and helping people create possibilities for themselves is what drives me even more. Y'all know that sometimes I just really don't know how to read out loud. Like it's this like combo. And I even recorded it in a podcast. So like I had a theory that I can read better when I've been speaking into the microphone for longer. But I just recorded a podcast on the Enneagram right before this. I'm excited for that one before this. So nope, I just can't read sometimes. It's fine. We'll blame it on caffeine or ADHD or something. So let's take a prayer or like take a breath so we can pray quick. If you're new to the show, because like I said, this is the CA one, and your boss may have said, hey, you should listen to this episode. Welcome. We pray real quick before each episode. I do that because it grounds me. Like, I am someone that needs like moments throughout the day to be, hey, be present, allow this message to work for you, take what you need from it. And just like reminders that this isn't the Lauren show. And that, I mean, it is Lauren's show, but really like just these reminder that like I'm here for a mission to help chiropractors just create chiropractors and other practitioners and other clinic owners and small business owners within the health practitioner field, just create lives that they're so freaking in love with. Like boredom, burnout, being broke. These are like the three pillars that I've really built this brand on to help people avoid. And like sometimes it's just like, it's just this nice, like, let's take a breath and let me remind you that I love you. So if you're new, we're going to pray real quick and then we'll get on with the show. Dear God, please help Kirby drive as fast as he possibly can safely. Give him wings of angels to get me that skeleton, please, please. Be with all the clinics and CAs and front desk and whatever listening today and help them be inspired. Chiropractic can be monotonous AF. Like I think any job can be, right? Oh yeah, for those that are new, God knows we cuss a little. It's okay. So whether you're a dentist or a vet or whatever, like every job can get super monotonous. And so having people like Miranda that are here to like pep us up, get us focused on growth, not just professionally, but personally, and help be a leader, help complement the leader that we are and step in areas that we are short. Like, thank you for people like her. In your name we pray. Amen. I don't know when she says this, but if you are like listening to this episode and jamming and like, yeah, I like this idea. Quick note. Towards the end, she says a couple crazy free things that she will do. One is basically she'll do a free assessment of your clinic, like for 2 weeks, completely free. I said, are you sure you want to do that? Because there's a lot of chiropractors who listen to the show and you'll see she delivers value. So like I would be very interested in doing that free. And then also if you do sign up for her coaching for 1 year, so I don't know if she says it on the show. I think it's $550 a month, which is like super reasonable. She will fly to your location for free and like do a training. And I was like, whoa. I actually, when we got off recording, I was like, are you sure you want me to keep that in there? Because like you're not charging enough to be like, and she's like, oh, that's what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, sounds good, Miranda. So I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but without further ado, here is my conversation with Miranda Dancisin. Yep, that's what we're gonna say it is. Enjoy. All right, Miranda. Well, welcome to the podcast. Right off the bat, I do want to know, do you know what your Enneagram is? Because I'm pretty sure I already do, and I've known you for 4 minutes.
So when I was listening to your podcast, I heard you asking those questions, and I don't actually know.
You're
Oh,
a
it's a
3.
three.
You're a
Okay, I'm a
3.
three. What's a three? Tell me about myself.
Well, okay. And I will like like I'll see as you answer certain questions, but like 3s tend to be like entrepreneurs, like
Okay.
achiever mindset. If something is good, then like they are really good at taking a hobby and turning it into a business. So like I'm assuming your story is you were a really good CA. And then
hmm
you decided to start a business of making other CAs. Yeah. So it wasn't like good enough just for you to like be a good CA, a great CA. It was like, I need to do more with this, and tends to be a 3
Exactly.
thing.
And it's so interesting. I'm going to look this up now, but one of the things that I do with the CAs at first is we do the 6 types of working genius, which
Ooh,
might be similar to what
ooh.
you're talking about with an Enneagram. to say
Yeah.
it correctly, but it basically tells you kind of like your strengths, your competencies, and then your working frustrations. And my strength happens to be discernment, which is taking something, the ideas that people already have, and then discerning how is this going to achieve? Is this a high chance or a low chance? And then kind of making it even better. So that kind of goes hand in hand with what you said with calling me a three. So I'm going to
Mhm.
compare those two
Yeah.
results
So,
now.
okay, can you tell me more about this 6 zones of genius? What did you call
Okay.
it?
Yeah, so it's not something that I do, it's another program that
Yep.
I found through
Everything
coaching,
is borrowed in
and
this and that. Yeah.
yeah, and what's really cool about it is, so basically we all have something that we are naturally gifted at, that we take joy from doing, right? And then we have these other things that we're okay at doing them, but we're not necessarily gonna leap up and volunteer first, but we'll do them and be okay with it. And then we have our frustrations, which we just absolutely will procrastinate on, we hate
Mhm.
doing, we just won't go there. And what I found through coaching is that sometimes people are put in a role and doing things that they're absolutely frustrated at. And that's why results aren't happening. And so, for
Mhm.
example, there was a doctor that I thought totally loved being like positive, being the one that is hyping people up, the motivational person, right? Because that's just how he seemed. And then when we took the test, that was actually his working frustration. And so it came out that he was only doing that because nobody else on the team was doing it. So he felt like he had to do it in order for the team to succeed. And it was just putting burden on him. He was being stressed out about it. And then one of his teammates, actually, that was their working genius. So we basically had them shift some of the things going on in the office so that they weren't getting burnt out.
You mean I could have somebody else like okay, I've never so what's really funny is I don't think anybody who has met me besides my team or my husband would go like they would all think that I love being the hype because like I'm a CEO, I'm a visionary, da 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 da. Da. So like of course naturally, but I hate repeating myself.
Mhm.
So, like, I do not like needing to continue to be the hype person at my clinic. And so you're saying that depending on if I have the right CAs, I could actually delegate someone else being the hype person?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, I love that idea.
And you do a team map afterwards, and it lets you know what you're missing. So two of the CAs actually happen to have the exact same working genius, and nobody at that office had the working frustration. So that was what was needed. So then they went through the process of hiring another CA. So I said, why don't we have your potential CAs, the candidates, take this test so you can find somebody who's that missing piece that now can help. Like tenacity is another working genius, the person that loves getting things done to completion. So if you don't have somebody who's tenacious on your team, you can have that hype man, you can have a wonderment, somebody who's coming up with the ideas, invention. But if nobody's actually making them follow through, then
Mhm.
nothing's going to get done.
So what do you do in a situation? So like it kind of reminds me of Michael Hyatt has he calls it like the drudgery zone.
Mhm.
Like so it's like you rank all your things in like 4 different things and there's things you love but you're not good at, things you love and you are good at, things you don't love and are not good at and then like whatever the missing whatever is. And
Okay.
so like the things you don't love and you're not good at is like he calls the drudgery zone.
Mhm.
And we've had our staff go through this before, but like ultimately, and maybe I mean this was like 2 years ago, so like maybe AI and like just all like technology can start filling in more and more. But like somebody's got it there's always going to be some tasks in an office that
Mhm.
nobody likes doing, right?
Not necessarily. That's why you kind of take a look and see where those missing pieces are. And then you also find a way to make it fun where you put a task like when we had taking out the trash, for example, that was when I love doing reactivation calls. Like I love calling patients, getting them
Is
back
that
on track.
taking out the trash? Or you say, oh,
Oh, I
okay.
know, I know.
I
I
thought
love the react calls, but
literally
not
taking
taking
out
out
the
the
trash,
trash. Yeah.
reactivation
So,
calls.
so reactivation calls. So I
I
would
thought taking out the trash was like getting rid of those nasty patients. Like,
like, well, although side note, whenever we would let a patient go that wasn't a right fit, we'd have like 10 more come in. So also big believer in energetic cleaning out, not
Mhm.
necessarily the trash part, but yes. But I would tailor a task that I didn't necessarily enjoy doing with another one that I did. So then it became a reward. So then you reward yourself, and then it ends up becoming also too repetitive, where you know you're doing these together. Because I would forget to take the trash out sometimes because I didn't like to do it. But if I put it with another task I enjoying, they go hand in hand. I'm now thinking of doing both of them at the same time.
See, that is not the reward. Okay. All right. So you have like a passion for work
Mhm.
that seemingly only most owners would have. Like, my reward for taking out for doing something I don't like is a part of my job that I love. Like, it's not like I get a little treat, like a little Starbucks or anything like that. When you're working, oh, how do I say this? Like, of course, I'm not talking to the CAs that are listening. Those CAs are rock stars, but like the other CA, the CA on your team that's not listening. Um,
Mhm.
that like what you're talking about requires a high amount of like passion and purpose for your work, passion for
Mhm.
work that I feel like is missing from a lot of CAs, like a lot of
Mhm.
CAs and just like front desk across all professions. It's a job. And like,
Mhm.
no matter how much, like, because even as the owner, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I do not want to do this job anymore. Somebody fire me. But nobody's firing you because it's your own job. Uh,
Yeah.
but like, how do you, as someone who works directly with the CAs, because it's one thing if you're coaching the doctor and you're like,
Mhm.
here's what you need to do. Here's you need to like pep up your team and like you need to be the visionary. But when you're working with CAs directly, like, how do you tell them, like, listen, Nancy, you gotta like get some zest in your life and love your job. Or like maybe Nancy isn't a good term because it might be more like the 21-year-olds.
Well, I actually had a Nancy that worked with me, so it's funny that you said that. So we'll just use that name, Nancy. So, well, two things I would definitely say is when you're saying zest for life, one of the things that we incorporate is the life coaching aspect, right? Because if you're happier outside of the office, you're going to be happier inside of the office. And a lot of times doctors look at it as like a disconnect, like they're two separate things, but it's more about combining that as well. Because one of the things I say is if you're hitting your goals outside, you're going to hit them inside too, right? Because then you just
Mm.
have that mentality, you're excited, you're going after it. But circling back, I would say, well, Nancy, when's the last time you looked at x-rays? When's the last time you got adjusted? Has your doctor gone and shared these testimonials with you, these stories, the fact that Mary was having migraines for years and now isn't? It all starts in order for a CA to have passion, to have ownership mentality. The doctor has to share, or the CA has to ask, right? Because the CA is just as capable, if you're listening to this, to ask your DC
Thank you.
to share those stories with you. It would always amaze me that when I would get adjusted sometimes at my office, that patients would look at me and say, "Oh, you get adjusted too?" And I'm like, of course I get adjusted too. Like, how could I be talking to you about chiropractic if I'm not a patient myself? My x-rays were actually the screensaver in the report room so that the patients, when they would come in, I was the example. So they would already bond with me and take it to a deeper level. So there's so many ways to ignite passion in somebody. But if somebody is just starting out new, they don't know what chiropractic is, we have to share that with them, or else how are they going to get passionate about something they know nothing about?
So what do you do when like I'm still trying to wrap my head around like you cutting straight to the CA, which is what most docs are going to say they want because they're too busy, too bored, too lazy, too tired, too whatever to inspire and train and lead the doc or like honestly not even to like well this kind of goes into like they're too tired like I've said, like, I don't know that I can say it in a different way. Like, you've worked with me for 4 years, or, like, I don't know how to, like, get, like, so there is sometimes this, like, peanuts, like,
Okay.
thing coming from the doc. But, like, when you go directly to the CA, did they ever come back and just be like, well, I was fired up, but my doc doesn't want to do any of these changes? No, I
Yes.
told him I could take over this, or I could start talking to patients about this, but like, and I don't know why all of a sudden he's a he, but like, he was like, no, I don't want you to do that. Like, how do you balance that part of this job?
Well, it's all about, again, sometimes we have to plant seeds or ease DCs into something that's new, especially if they've been working a certain way for a long time and something's new. And now, the CA never asked to see testimonies and things like that. And now all of a sudden they're asking. So I have found that sometimes it takes a little bit of time and that repetition of asking, but then there's also the showing, because when the CA starts to get fired up and the
Mhm.
DC, who maybe has been burnt out or is a little bit tired, sees his CA suddenly asking referral statements or asking a question of like, what's that on the x-rays, it kind of starts to re-inspire them. And it almost internally becomes like this healthy competition too, where all of a sudden the DC can't kind of let the CA, like that ego
Be
comes into
more
play.
passionate about
Yeah,
chiropractic than they
yeah.
are?
But it does reignite inside, because that most chiropractors, you got into it because you care about helping people. Like that was the number one reason. And then now, it is hard to run a chiropractic business and office. There's all these expenses. You're asking the same patient, the same referral statement time and time again with no results. So how do you get relit up? And when you see your CA doing it, it's almost like whenever you have a new team member come in, like a new hire, right? All of a sudden you're kind of sitting up a little bit straighter. You want to show off, you want to answer the phone correctly. It's the same idea mentally.
Okay. So when you start working with a clinic CAs, what are some of the top things that you like they need? Like that are lacking that you're like, okay, first let's address that we don't have this or yeah.
Okay. So, every office is different. Things
Yeah.
are done differently. But what I tend to find, number one, is probably that ownership mentality in the CA, so that
Mm,
they feel connected to the patients, to the finances, to what's going on. Not the type of CA that's going to walk in and there's going to be, I don't know why I'm talking about trash apparently this episode, but if a CA walks in and sees trash on the floor, like they're going to notice it. Like they treat it like if it's their home, because it is their home away. It's where they're comfortable. So that's number one, is that's I find is missing and that we instill, is that ownership mentality. Another thing with that is, I mean, I have CAs that at first they had no idea what the office was collecting or what was going out expense wise. Like they thought the office was doing absolutely amazing. And their doctor's over here stressed about how he's going to pay them or she's going to pay them. And I found when they actually talk about that sometimes and have an open conversation, the CA, most CAs genuinely care about their doctor. It becomes a family in many ways. And a way to ignite that ownership passion is also to say your job is also to protect the doctor, to protect them when they're stressed or don't know what's going on. So even if, and then they kind of lead into caring more about chiropractic, because they at the very least care about their doctor's mentality and being okay and want to have that support system, if that makes sense.
mhm. So how do you get them to have more ownership? Like how do you instill like that into someone?
So that's where it also goes with the life coaching. So we talk about things outside of the office, finding something that they're passionate about and feeling that, and then transitioning that into the office. Because when you're talking about something you love, your whole body lights up, you smile. And then we ease that into chiropractic as well. And then we find a correlation between it so that they can get excited. We share maybe their grandma is like their favorite person and they're talking about that, then we have them talk to the doctor about maybe a grandma that had an amazing testimony journey there. Like just some kind of correlation to excite them.
Mhm.
And with having the joy of being able to talk to so many different CAs, I've heard thousands of different chiropractic stories, different testimonials. One of my CAs in the beginning, she did ask me, she's like, how do I talk about chiropractic when I haven't had any of those life changing testimonies in my office? So I shared stories from other offices and I said, even if this didn't happen at your office, truthfully, this happened someplace else. So you can
Mhm.
share that with a patient at your office and feel it and trust that it's now going to happen at yours.
Do you think so like you're talking about talking to patients about this stuff, but like
Yes.
does every CA in order for them to be like an A plus employee, do they need to be able to communicate like chiropractic?
Absolutely. I would say
Oh.
bare minimum. bare minimum, if your CA doesn't know what subluxation is, then we need to talk.
Mhm. Okay. So, like, but some people, like, they're just gonna be like, "Oh, I don't." That's like almost asking them to give a speech.
Um, Not necessarily, because everybody has a different take on it, and you should be able to explain why you're working there, what your story is, and share things. I mean, that's taking it to a next level, right? If
Mhm.
you have a CA at the front at one office that doesn't necessarily know about chiropractic, but then you have another CA that does, and they're able to talk to a patient and then maybe lead that into getting their mom or sister or somebody else scheduled, like, why wouldn't you inform your CA, give them those tools in order to do that?
Mhm. Okay. So I think the new patient phone call is definitely like a great place for this. And I could
Mhm,
see that being actually like an easier thing for people to be like, oh, okay. But I want to talk about like the small talk that happens in the day to day of like in the clinic, because I feel like if you've got like just a really nice, outgoing CA and they have no problem talking, like, yes, I mean, I love talking to the patients, but a lot of times it's like, we tell them their job is like, just make them feel at home. And so it's like, how
mhm.
was your weekend? Oh, how was the band concert? Like this and that. So what's your advice for a CA on how to insert chiropractic education into the small talk that just happens on a daily basis with patients that are coming and going, you've seen 20, 30, 40 times. Like, how do you move them out of just like the comfort of like, oh, hey, Jenny, she's seen Jenny 100 times, and like to educate more.
I absolutely love that you asked that, because that is such a question that I get so many times, is how do we get this small talk, politics, news, weather, this, all of this outside of the office and bring it back to chiropractic? So I make it almost like a game. Like, okay, I always talk about planting seeds and finding seeds. So the biggest thing is when we're making small talk is to make sure we're also listening. We're always trying to listen for cues that the patient might say, like maybe they're moving, maybe they're going to their daughter's soccer practice next week, or they're going to a Mets game. You're basically listening for any cues that you could tie back to chiropractic, but while also being present with the patient. Because if you're, not really listening and you're just trying to sell something or plan a referral statement, the patient's going to know too. So first, you have to actually be interested in what the patient is saying. And second, listening. So I was recently at an office and somebody came in and they did a little key card swipe and they started talking to me something about politics, and it just started going south. And I said, well, I bet you the guy lost because he wasn't under chiropractic treatment. Maybe that's why the other guy won, and just made it a joke. And then let's move you to bench two.
Right. Okay,
So,
buddy. Yeah.
it's just, or there was a patient that was talking about moving. And that's when we said, you're normally one time a week, but since you're moving next weekend, let's have you come in two times because your body is going to need it anymore, need it more. So I think it's just finding a
You
way.
like so a CA recommended a boost, like an
Yes.
extra adjustment.
Yes.
I mean, holy shit. I think I would like, I don't know. I just thought of like the dirtiest analogy, whatever. Like, I would be so excited if I heard one of my CAs sell a boost adjustment. Sorry, that's just like the phrase that we use. If somebody's
Okay.
weekly and they got two, it would be like, oh, do a boost adjustment. So like get two next week instead of one.
Hmm.
They they can do that?
I feel like it's like a mind blown right now. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they be able to do that? It's
Yeah,
not like they're saying you need less chiropractic. It's
exactly.
like during times of stress, your body often needs more. Of course they can sell that. What else can they sell?
Well, one of the things we're working on right now is back to school backpack checks, because
Okay.
school's coming up. So making sure we're letting our patients know to go ahead and bring in little Billy. Kids tend to wear backpacks on one shoulder or too high or too low. So let's go ahead and bring him in and get a free backpack check. And then when he's there, the doctor can do a free scoliosis check, which then leads into a full exam. And now the patient's under care. So there's a lot of little ways that the CA can really help the practice. And I think, again, just taking it back, once the DC is sharing stories, showing x-rays, the CA is under treatment, like you definitely should have your CA getting chiropractic treatment
Yeah.
and them feeling it, then they feel that ownership of talking to patients more and sharing those kind of things. 5-star Google and Yelp reviews are another thing a patient can ask for. If they're talking to someone and they say, hey, my headaches have went away, like I have headaches and more. Oh my God, Mary, that is absolutely amazing. There are so many people that have headaches that don't know chiropractic can help. It would be awesome if you could, share a testimony or do a 5-star Google Yelp review. Like that's what your CAs are for. They're not just there to
Mm-hmm.
schedule, answer the phone, and check people in and out. It's so much
Mm.
more.
It's so much more. It really is a sales job. So you had talked about one of the ways to like create more ownership is basically transparency in collections.
Mhm.
Do you find that okay, so I'm going to come back to the collections thing, like explain why I'm asking it.
Okay.
Is so sometimes the fear is like if I had 15 associates from different clinics all over the country
Mhm.
that I was putting through a training, what would start to happen is they would be like, well, this is how much I get paid, and this is how much my this is that. And it can kind of turn into this like uh bitch fest. We'll just call it that. Not because they're
Okay.
females, because some of them are males, we'll say in these 15. But like it can turn into that. So when it comes to like CAs starting to understand collections, I think one of the things that's really concerning to the owner is like, okay, let's say I tell them 70,000 is our break even point for the month as far as like bills are being paid. Like if we're less than 70,000, everyone needs to freak out and do their job better. Oh, and maybe you could give me more verbiage on how to phrase that better too. But let's say then you have a month that is 90,000.
Mhm.
So like the immediate concern that I know every like owner who just listened went, "Ugh, now my staff knows I made $20,000 that month." And they're like worried that the staff is going to be like, well, I want to raise. I like, you got 20 grand this month. I should get like,
Okay.
yeah. You see where I'm going here?
I absolutely do. And that is a perfectly valid question. And I love that you asked that. So, what I would say is right off the bat, if that is the number one thought or concern that a DC might be having, then they're not fully feeling that they might have the right CA in place. Because if that's
Mm,
where you think your CA's mind is going to go, then your CA isn't focused on that patient care, on helping families. They're not aligned with your mission statement to begin with, number one. So, I'll just put that out there
mhm.
in full honesty. And then
But
number 2.
also that could be your CA, just because you think your CA is thinking that doesn't necessarily mean that could be like a money mindset thing for the doc too.
Yes,
So you might have the
it's a
wrong
fear.
CA or you might have a money block in your own head. But yeah.
Mhm. And then how do we shift that mentality so that we're not feeling that way, and also we're confident that our CA isn't feeling that way? And again, it's where we're doing the motivation, we're training them, we're sharing stories so that their heart, because I know, circling back, you mentioned it's a sales job, but I think more than a sales job, it really is a heart job too,
Mhm.
because that's, you have somebody that's bonding with a patient and they feel that they're in that job not just for the money. I mean, I've known so many CAs that work hours after not getting paid, and they're not doing it if they're not, because they're not getting paid, they're doing it to help the patient or making extra calls. So kind of putting that out there. But it's making it fun for the CA, because if they also care about the office, the patients, you, then they want to celebrate those wins with you. And if we had a goal of 70, right? And now all of a sudden we're doing 80 or 90, and now we're consistently doing 90. And we're also doing that because the CA is asking referral statements and the CA has greatly contributed to that.
Mhm.
Then there might be room for potential, raises and things like that, but it's only if it's consistent and it's coming. Now,
Right.
everybody, again, every office is different. I work with many different offices. Some of the offices, what they're doing, and I do encourage this, and this might sound a little scary for the DCs, but if we also want to get that ownership mentality, that competition mentality, the heart and sales mentality, then maybe do something like, we're normally doing 70,000 a month. Let's do 90. And if we get to 90, then you'll get a little bonus, or
Yeah.
you'll get a trip, or like a team dinner, or make
Mhm.
it something fun where it is cost effective. So if you've collected $20,000 more because your CA is now excited and they have a goal and they're sharing the goal with
Yeah.
you, I
Yeah, you
mean, it would be
should,
worth
like
it.
yes, and I do feel like most CEOs that I've worked with, they want to be giving bonuses. They want to be doing that. They just need consistently
Mhm,
to have abundance. Like, they just
mhm,
consistently need good months where they're like, "Oh my gosh." But, like, yeah, they want to turn around and give that. I've even heard of somebody, saying that you can set up like a profit sharing where
mhm,
it's like, okay, for the year, if we get a certain, and if we get to this point, then this percentage will get split amongst
mhm,
all of you type of thing. And so
mhm.
like they know when the clinic makes money, like the more money the clinic makes, the more, and that is like however you can kind of get to that point, it is kind of helpful. Like I've seen this with the associate. So like how long have you been involved in chiropractic?
On and off about 20 years.
Okay. You
Mhm.
look young. Good job.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
turning 41 in December.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, when we stop recording, you're gonna have to tell me, like, what you do for your face and skincare stuff
See,
because
chiropractic keeps me young.
oh,
That's how I
shut
can
up.
circle it back. See?
Ah, shut up, you bitch. Okay, so I just started, like, really interviewing, like, and getting involved in the nitty-gritty of how clinics work and how hiring, all of that, like,
Mhm,
4 years ago with the maybe 6 years ago when I started coaching, but and so what I've kind of observed is like what used to happen is like so we had Gen X and they would bring in associates,
mhm,
docs and pay a very, very low base, but like pie in the sky commission thing. And like maybe some people did good, but a lot of chiros got burnt and it became this thing to be wary of in our profession of like, oh, no, 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 no. Commission, you're going to get screwed over. So then I saw like millennials come in. And so we got like kind of this ripple effect of like, oh, I don't get candidates. Nobody wants to work for me if I'm saying commission. They want a base. They just want a consistent base. They don't want any of this like, oh, maybe you could make a lot of money. And so I saw a lot of chiros offering like, 100% base. Okay. And so this
okay.
is where a lot of a lot of CAs would be is like 100% base. But recently, I've started seeing a lot of success with people starting to bring back the commission into the associate and starting like getting that associate more involved in like, you want an associate to help grow your practice? They need to know that they make more money when the clinic makes more money
Yep.
and just putting their like hope in you that like if the clinic makes more money you'll give me a raise. I haven't seen be enough motivation like
Mhm,
they really, and so like I'm seeing that start to happen with associates, and so I like this idea of like you want your CAs involved, then like how do they know that if you make more money they make more money?
mhm, mhm. I love that you said that. So, I mean, I would definitely say one of the things that we did when I did work in an office, I don't anymore, is we had both. So when associate would be brought on, and same with the CA, is you had your base, but then you had the opportunity if you hit a certain amount in collections, then you could create a bonus. And I like
Mhm.
the word bonus so much more than commission because your bonus, you worked for something extra, you achieved it, right? So that way it gave them something to also strive and work for. Because if a CA or a DC doesn't have next steps or something to reach for, then why would they work extra if they already have that base? You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so there's got to be some incentive there. And it also will show you because if you have two CAs and there is again, it becomes a healthy competition in a way because if you have one CA that's not really asking for referral statements or doing anything, and then you have another CA that's just going for it, then all of a sudden that CA that's not asking either steps up or the CA that's going for it talks to the DC and says like, "Hey, now we got you to this month and I worked my butt off and the other CA didn't." And we find that it actually it makes the other CA that wasn't working kind of step up their game in a way. So you guys are coming at that as a team effort. But my suggestion would be to kind of offer both when you're looking at
Mhm.
hiring, to say this is the base. And if you do this, for example, the office that I left, I know that 30,000 was her commission if she reached 30,000, and she finally hit it last month. So she was able to get her base salary plus a bonus from that. But if she didn't have that opportunity, do we think she would have brought in 30,000 into the office? To be honest, probably not. So it
Right.
100% is worth it for that little bit of being paid out.
Now, when you're okay, so when you're saying she brought in 30,000,
Mhm.
what do you mean? What do you
So
mean?
as far as like new
Because she didn't
patients, like,
adjust. What do you mean?
oh, the associate DC did. So we had
Oh,
at
the
my office,
associate.
we had
Okay.
our, yeah, so she was an associate DC and she happened to run Wednesday. So she was the only doctor on
Got
Wednesdays.
it.
So
Okay.
any new patient that she brought in, they would go underneath her. So she brought in 30,000, but she would also do like farmers markets and
Mhm.
business meetings and things like that. But those are all people that she specifically brought into the practice.
Got it. So now, like on your Instagram bio, what does it say? It says like you're something about how much money you brought in. What I'm trying to find it now because all right, hold on. My
I think this is
editor.
gonna blow some of the DC's minds right now at
Yeah.
actually knowing these numbers, because
Where's
it's
your
it's
damn
insane even to me
thing?
that this happened.
Well, and like, all right, there you are. There, where's your damn profile? Okay.
It doesn't have the exact numbers on there, but I have
Record
them.
holder for highest office collections by a CA. So, highest office collections. How are you bringing in how are you bringing in collections? Because I don't feel like a lot of chiropractors, we're going through this thing of like, well, no, I adjust. The adjustment's the only thing that like, so, and I would love to just continue blowing minds because I think 100% of chiropractors listening will go, wait a minute, is there a way my CA can make me money? Because that would be great.
Mhm, mhm. So again, every office is doing
Mhm.
different. Some offices do pay per visit, some do insurance, cash based, or have prepays and maintenance. So at my particular office, we did focus a lot on prepayment and
Mhm.
someone starting in corrective care and then maintenance as well. And so one of the things that I did is, for example, we had a yearly maintenance fee for X amount of money.
Okay.
And I started offering multi-year renewals, because if somebody is going to prepay for 1 year, why don't we have them prepay for 2 or 3 or 5? And that way they save money. They get locked in at the current rate in case we do a price raise increase,
You're
right? Cost of
asking
living.
people for 5 year.
And I got it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And the first thing we did is I was asking verbally. And then when I was asking verbally, I was like, well, why don't we just add it to the forms? Because if somebody doesn't even know it's an option, then how do they know that they can do it? Same thing too with like healthcare classes. If doctors do a class or a seminar or anything like that, I find that sometimes they don't have space for a guest. So they're not asking if a guest can be brought, or if they have a sign-in sheet, it just says name, but it doesn't have space for guest. So I'm like, add guest one and add guest two, so that you're leading the patient to knowing, yes, you can bring guests. It's a possibilities. Yes, you can prepay for more than 1 year. They won't know it's a possibility if you don't tell them and you don't show them.
Yeah, really. But what I'm hearing is like you had like the clinic you were at had these incentives set up. So like
Mhm.
it's kind of I think it's easy for the owner to be like, "Man, I wish my CAs would like oh, can we come back to referral statements too? Because you've said that a couple times and I would love
Yes.
like to, but
Mhm.
like I would love for my CAs to like talk to patients about pre-buying and this and that. And it's like, well, behavior like human behavior is often shaped by what you track and what you incentivize.
Mhm.
So if you're not tracking, like set a goal, like, is this what you recommend? Like if you had a doc who was like, okay, well, I want my CA to like do this stuff. Like,
Mhm.
is the next thing you ask is like, okay, well, are you measuring how often they're doing it now? Is there a reward
Yeah.
system for it now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, stats are key. So we had a yearly and monthly goal that we were going for. And what I also found is some of the offices were only going over numbers at like their Monday meeting, for example. And I'm like, well, why aren't we going over it daily? Like every single day, the CA should know, okay, how much closer am I to the monthly goal? How much closer are we to the yearly goal? Because the day affects the month, which affects the year. Like it's all hand in hand. And sometimes there's this huge disconnect with that. So you also got to celebrate the wins that your office has. If you have a high day of collections, like if you just collected, 20 grand today and your office normally collected 10 grand, like you guys should celebrate that and high five each other and have those celebration moments. So absolutely, I feel like setting goals, number one, bare minimum, but also reviewing the stats daily, not once a week, not once a month, so that you can see what's working and what's not. If your CA suddenly starts asking referral statements and you notice that the numbers are going up or you've had new patients, then okay, there's a correlation there. Or if they stop and it goes down, like you need to be able to track these. And if you're not paying attention, how are you going to track it?
So what are some of these what are these referral statements? Like, I think I know what you mean, but like, give me some
Okay,
scripts.
so there's what I call blanket referral statements, which is like the who do you know, chiropractic helps, have
Oh,
anybody come in,
yep.
right? They're like generic. What if we went just a couple levels deeper? So, for example, July was National Headache and Migraine Month. So, the patients that are coming in, saying something like, Lauren, it's National Headache and Migraine Month. Women actually have headaches like 80% more than men, which is just wild. Like, do you know anybody that's experiencing headaches? So you kind of make it specific to where you tailor it, because if we just say who do you know, your mind goes to a million different people, right? Circling back, I think it was April or May was National Women and Children in Sports. So if I said, Lauren, do you know a child that plays sports? Your mind might now go to your cousin Penelope. Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome. So how old's Penelope? Has she ever got a prevention check? Soccer is really hard on the leg kick in there. So let's bring her in, sit down with the doctor and, figure out what's going on, kind of thing. You just lead them into it.
You just
So
made a bunch of doctors uncomfortable. Like you just made a bunch of docs go, "Oh, I wouldn't even do that," which
well,
is
okay, then if you feel uncomfortable doing it, have your CA do it. And then
exactly,
they'll take care of your office.
exactly, and then you wanna know why you're not growing. Like, just listening to you and, like, how motivating and energizing you are with things, it makes me realize how many clinics and, like, sometimes ourself included and whatever, have lost what I call, like, the new girl energy, and I say
Mm-hmm.
that I'll say this to boys too. I'll be like, "You lost your new girl energy." Just and it's that, like, I am uncomfortable enough with the current status of the clinic that I am willing to be uncomfortable to change my situation. And
Mm-hmm.
so many clinics have they've gotten just like I imagine a lot of the clinics that might work with you, they might hire you to come in and their CAs, like the doc is like, "Yeah, I want us to grow." And you're like, "Okay, are you doing this? Are you doing that for your employees? Are you doing this?" And they're like, "No, no, no." And it's like, "Oh, well, in the beginning you would have. Like in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, you would have had like goals and you would have followed through with
When you're
them."
hungry, right? And you're just
Yeah,
starting out, you
you're
have those, what is
hungry.
it? The chiropractic school loans to pay, right? So they're like,
Yes, yes. You are hungry, like, you need to be seeing more than 5 people a week. But, like, very few docs, let's say they get up to, like, 150 a week, and they're like, "Oh, but this is, like I'm not making enough money."
and I'm
Somewhere
tired too.
yeah, yep. But somewhere in their mindset, they're comfortable enough at 150, because if you're
Mhm.
like, "Okay, cool, when was the last screening you did?" And they're like, "No, oh, no, 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 no." And then they're like, "Well, can I send my associate?" Well, like, can I make my associate do that? Can I
Oh
make
my
the
gosh, I have to
CA
tell you this real
yeah.
quick. So, because you just said that, a few months ago, I flew out to Santa Barbara for the Earth Day Festival. And the doctors that I worked with, they normally did this Earth Day Festival, but they actually were going to a trip to a seminar and they weren't going to do it. And I jokingly said, well, I'll fly out there and do it. And they were like, wait, you will? And so I ended up flying out there to do this Earth Day Festival without them present, no DC. And we got 39 new patients scheduled.
That was a good ROI on whatever they paid you to come do
It
that.
wasn't even like it was amazing, and for the booth, it was $500, I'll tell you that much. So 100% just with, the tickets that were sold that day, I think it was like a 2,000 income just from the, pre-tickets, but, and that wasn't gonna happen, there was no doctor there, so the CAs 100% could do this. If you don't like doing farmers markets, like, train your CA to do it, because if they can bring in 39 new patients in a weekend, like, your office is set. So
Mhm.
that's what they're there for.
Okay, so let's talk about all right, so let's say there's a farmer's market and I do
Mhm,
want to train my CAs to do what you did.
mhm,
How do I go about training them to do that? So yes, they need to understand how cool chiropractic is. Like if you
mhm,
don't understand that, you feel like you're selling an like I've kind of in one of the episodes with Roberto Monaco, we talked about how like people are so weirded out by sales. And I said, like,
uh-huh,
the used car salesman, that's like the thing that we think of like, ew. Well, why do we think that? Well, because we believe that a used car salesman is selling you a piece of junk that's going to break down, not work. Nobody goes, oh, you're a Porsche salesman? Like, ew. Because why? Because we believe that the quality of the product
Mhm,
that they're selling matches the like exchange value. So,
mhm,
step one, your CAs have to believe that what they are selling is worth the people's money.
mhm, mhm,
So, step two,
and
three, four. What is that?
okay. So leading into that as well, it's not just about selling. Sometimes it's all about our mindset. So if we come from the approach of educating a patient, soon to be patient, right, about chiropractic, that is a different energy than if we're trying to get them to come into our office, our office. If you lead with just letting them know about chiropractic, how it can help them, they naturally want to come in, like when you're talking to them as well. And then step two and three, I would say, is oh, definitely role playing. Like you have to role play, because that's how we, when we're uncomfortable, we get comfortable in these situations. And so one of the role plays that I do, it circles back to that new patient phone call you mentioned. But when we do the new patient phone call role play, I have it so that they're picking up the phone. There's another new patient coming in. There's a baby crying. Someone just spilt their coffee and someone's asking for help. So it's all these
Mhm.
chaotic
Yep. Sounds
things.
exactly like my clinic on a Tuesday
Yeah.
afternoon. Yeah.
But it's if they learn in that type of environment and they can role play in that type of environment, number one, they drop their barriers, right? Because they're just like, whoa, what's going on? But
Mhm.
number two, they're having fun with it. And when you're having fun in those situations, like your heart and the salesperson mentality like goes away, because they see you smiling, they see you having fun, they see the joy that you have. So I would say definitely role play with your CAs and DCs in the most crazy of circumstances, and start with that. And then if you learn the hard stuff, the easy stuff is just easy, right?
Mhm.
So role playing someone who's like walking by your booth, like with their eyes down or on their cell phone, or just those things like, okay, how do we have, and then that's where the magic happens, because there's been so many role plays where I'll come up with something that I'm like, oh my God, in 20 years of chiropractic, I never thought to say that. But now because we're role playing it, this light bulb just went off. Oh my
Right.
gosh, we're going to utilize that. So, and that Santa Barbara festival, one of the things that came up that we did is we brought a dog bowl of water, because we noticed the first day, and we were doing role plays in the beginning too, that so many people were walking by with dogs. So we're like, well, why don't
Mm.
we just put a dog bowl so that the dogs come in? Now we're
Haha, your
talking to the
dog's
dog.
drinking. You're stuck here.
Yeah, yeah.
Love that. We at one, a similar thing to that, we have put like a kids obstacle course right in front, like a little hopscotch and a thing because all the parents of their kids, they had to slow down for their kid to like crawl through the tube
Yep.
and do the thing. And we're just like, hey, since you're
It's all
standing
those
here.
little things that
Yeah.
help, right? There was a cobblestone right in front of our booth that was super jagged. So we had those orange cones, and everybody be like, oh, you set that up in front of a chiropractor, right? I'm going to fall at that. But then we'd play with it and be like, exactly. It wasn't us. Come on in, come get checked.
Yeah.
So you just play with it.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So you have brought so many really great things to this ownership and empowerment of the CA. Is there anything that we didn't like touch on that you feel is really important to
Mm,
address?
I would say. Terminology is also big when we're talking to the CA, like how we're speaking in the office, words that we're using, positivity as well, even when the patients aren't there. And I just want to throw out the word let's as a power word that definitely CAs and DCs can use as far as leading patients into anything. Like, let's get you scheduled, let's set you up. That would I would be say if I leave you with anything, to overutilize the word let's, because people will follow if
Mm.
you just lead them into it. So I wanted to share that.
Oh man, now I feel like you've got another gold nugget in there that I want one more. Do you have another power word?
Um
'Cause that was good. We almost ended without you saying that.
I do actually is one of oh my gosh, I do have something for you. This is so I always say one of the great things about our office, like no matter what it is the patient's asking, one of the great things leading them into it. But to circle back to what you said about sales and feeling sales, whenever I'm talking to a patient, I always have them focus on what they're saving versus what they're spending. So if you're talking to someone about money, whatever number it is that's at your office, whether you're a pay per visit again or whatever, the focus should be that they're so looking at what they're saving. If you do have a discount, they're looking at that number. I'm saving this amount instead of paying this, or I'm saving myself for maybe future surgery or migraines or not sleeping, and I'm paying this. Always to find a way to focus on the savings for the patient, and then the money talks easy.
I love this. I love this a lot. Okay. So, my final question is where can people find more of you? What does it look like to like work with you at a clinic? Are there like layers and things like this? Talk to me about it.
Great. So I really am tailoring individually to each clinic. So first of all, my website is califecoaching.com. Instagram is at chiropractic assistant. See a little blonde person there talking on the phone. That's me. So you've come to the right place. But most importantly, I would say, honestly, just text me, because my cell phone is public. And I feel like so many people can go to a website, they can look at a video. I have training videos too, but
Okay,
I just
you
want
are
to
an
talk to
attractive
people.
blonde woman. Is your phone number on your Okay, no. Was
It
like,
is actually on the website and other places, but
"Girl, what
I'll
are
say it.
you doing?"
It's okay. It's okay. So it's area code 408-893-3005. That is my personal cell. You can 100% text me, ask questions. If I'm just here to also be a resource in addition to the coaching that I have, but don't feel
Mhm.
shy to reach out to me if anything on this podcast like sparked interest or you have questions. I'm here to help. So there's that part. As far as the coaching aspect goes, I do virtual and in person training as well. And I wanted to offer something special to your listeners. So if they text me or reach out on the website, whatever they prefer, you can also send me voice notes too, because I like personalization. And you mentioned this podcast, I will either do 2 weeks of training, like I'll look at your forms, kind of talk to you about some verbiage, referral statements, talk to your CAs at no charge and no obligation of starting coaching with me. If you don't like what you see in the first two
Do you know
weeks,
how dangerous what you're offering is? Do you know how many
I do.
chiropractors listen to this podcast?
I do.
I'm
Now there
like,
will be a limit on this. And I'm
there
not giving a limit because I want to be able to help as many offices as possible. So I can't promise how long you might
you're
be like
right,
the
right.
50th person. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I can't do this right now. But I just want to put that opportunity out there to offices. And like I said, if after 2 weeks you don't feel it's a good fit, there's no harm, no foul. Like I want you to be in the right place and feel like I have something to offer. And then once we go into the coaching, I do offer monthly options. I do offer a prepayment option for the year. And for the first six listeners, if they like what they see, they want to do the yearly prepayment option, I will fly to your office at no charge and do a full day of in person training with your CAs,
Okay.
but only for the first six.
Only
And
for the
so
first
I'm
6.
actually
And I
going, like I
might be
said, to
taking
North
one of the
Carolina.
6, so there's 5 left.
I would take
Awesome.
you up on that because I would absolutely love to come out to your office. I think we'd have so much fun.
I think so
So
too.
that is definitely an opportunity.
Oh, Miranda, thank you so much. I think you found a niche that was not filled and like did a really good job. And I think that hopefully some docs like that listen to this are like, okay, I just need my CA to listen to this, because one of the things that I said is like, how many times can we as owners be like, "Hey, so I listened to a podcast and this is what they recommended," so
Mhm,
sometimes it's just easier of like, "Hey, you guys should listen to this," type of thing. So
mhm,
I hope that even if somebody listening doesn't like start working with you, that like
mhm.
I really believe that you probably motivated their CAs, and kind of just
Yeah.
kicked them and probably the doc a little bit, just get a little bit of that new girl energy back. And so I just really think what you're doing is cool. I had told you before we started recording that so you kind of love bombed me, which is Instagram love bombed is what I call it, where like it's like you like seven different posts and then comment, and I was like, okay, I see you, but most of the time I don't really pay attention that much, and I'm like,
Mhm,
okay, I see you, but I was like, wait a minute, what's this chick do? And then I got within being on your profile for like maybe 90 seconds. And I like had actually realized like, oh, this is unique. I messaged you and was like, do you want to come on the podcast?
mhm.
Because, and I don't do that often. I really am not like desperate for guests. And I don't like, a lot of people are just like super salesy, especially like in the
Yeah,
Chiro world where I'm just like,
yeah.
are
I can
you
do
offering
this.
something? Like, I don't want to have like just the same people that are on every other Chiro podcast. But I was like, oh, this is cool. So you absolutely delivered. I appreciate you today, and I hope that you get 50 plus people to take you up on your offer. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you're doing as well, and you're awesome. And I don't want to sound salesy when I say this. I mean this generally, but we should talk because I'm here as a resource for you as well. And I think
awesome.
you're freaking awesome.
Thanks. All right, She Slayers. Until next week. Bye.